Hi, everyone. Welcome to She Rises Studios podcast. My name is Hanna Olivas, and I'm going to be your host today. And I am joined with a very incredible woman, Claudia Noriega Bernstein. And Claudia is a force. She is a wife, a mama, an author, a speaker, podcast host, and she's also an inspiring, transformational abundance coach for women. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
We finally made it happen.
I know. We've been talking about it
for a long time. So I wanted to just really talk to you. And, the topic that I really wanted to focus on today is rooted. Like how we're rooted inspirationally, how we empower other women to stay rooted when all the chaos that's happening. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And I feel like this topic really encompasses who you are and how you have never wavered in your journey. You're rooted like a live oak tree, which is one of the most strongest trees in the world. So
I think it's a journey, I would say. And it starts by getting to know yourselves. I often talk about self-worth. And I think if we take a step back, is the self-concept that we have. And I see that you have the Worthy book there. And I love Jamie Carlima because she totally nailed it in her book. Oftentimes we talk about self-esteem, like self-esteem is self-worth, and one thing has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
And I think that for me was mainly getting to know myself with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and accepting who I am. Because when you do that, then there is no negotiation. Then you can really be open to receive, and you're grounded, and this is who I am, and I like who I am. I am proud of who I am. I am empowered by who I am. So all those words that we see in social media and books and everywhere are not valid anymore because you are familiar with yourself, and you embrace that being that you are created day by day. Like I am a little bit of my 6-year-old, my teenager, my 20-year-old, my 30-year-old, and we talk about this in the past. So when you embrace all these versions of yourself, then your roots get deeper in the ground.
They do. And you really stop worrying about all the perfection. It's more like the progress and actually being a part of, like being present in the journey of every piece of life.
Right.
And I think that sometimes we forget that because we're in that hustle bustle. So you have quite a story that you shared with me. And I kind of wanted you to walk our listeners through the beginning of when you first really understood what you wanted, where your passion was.
I didn't really have a label for it. I had more an energy, I would say. Like I knew where and when I would feel in peace with myself, that I wasn't forcing anything, that it just came natural, So, my kids grew up with a coach without me knowing I was a coach and without them knowing that they were being coached, because I would digest things in a different way. And it was like a kitchen thing. I don't know if you know anything about human design, but I am a motivator generator. And when you're a motivator generator, you have different areas. And my area is the kitchen, not because so much I love to cook, but not so much because of that, but because in the kitchen, you have the ingredients and you create something. And that's how I am in my life. I have a lot of ingredients and I create what I create every day with whatever I have, and it's like when you want to be creative in the kitchen and you open the fridge and you say, what am I going to cook today? And you have no idea, but you go, oh, wait a minute, I have a broccoli and I have a piece of chicken. I have whatever, I want to make a stew, That's how I go in my life. And I don't have a plan, but I do have a destination. So I don't know how, but I do know my why. And my why have always been my girls. Because at the end of the day, we don't take anything with us. We leave a legacy. So for me, and I learned that with my dad, the legacy wasn't going to be as much in the bank I mean, by all means, yeah, if I am multimillionaire, why not? I'm open to receive. But my main goal was to leave a legacy to my daughters that they can bring with them and they can share with their kids and then the kids with their kids, you know. But that legacy has to be of empowerment, of authenticity, of integrity. You know, those are my pillars. And I mean, I have my daughter here, you know, I raised them that way, you know. Many times I would say to my girls, good is good, even if nobody's doing it. And bad is bad, even if everybody's doing it. So you know what's good and what's bad because I'm teaching it to you. So you have no excuse. Now, if you choose to go to the bad, you're going to have a consequence and it's going to be on you. It's not going to be on me because I did my homework and I taught you. So now it's on you. So that's pretty much how I live my life. And I still, you know, day by day like that.
So what do you think was a time, you know, because we talked about when you were a young woman breaking into the industry of film. We've talked about when you became a mom, and you shared with me even outside of this space about the importance of really showing your girls, you know, what it takes, what that resilience, you know, what you just shared. Fast forward now. Your girls are grown. You are, by all definitions in society, successful. You're doing all these different things here in the local community. You are married to a high-profile person, yet you're still walking in humility. You're doing things that most women in that space would not do.
I don't blow my own horn, you know that.
Hence the word rooted. How have you been able to stay so rooted and so humble?
Because my purpose is also connecting with other humans in that energy of authenticity. If I don't come and if I don't show up authentic, how can I expect somebody else to show up authentic? You know, so when I meet somebody, I don't see that person with all the titles that they have in their business card or in their bio. I see them naked. Not literally, but I see them naked. It's like, let me see who are you. Not with the titles, not with the Gucci purse, not with the expensive shoes, not with the husband next to you. I want to know about you. You know, I want to learn from you. Because I truly believe we are here students and teachers. It depends where we are in our lives or in the circumstances. I learn from my kids every day. And they're a lot younger than me. You know, I mean, I'm 57. I am still learning. And I love that. I'm a sponge. I love that. So when I meet somebody, and I go to a lot of galas and a lot of benefits, we do a lot of things. My husband is huge in giving back to society as well and the community. But when I meet somebody, I want to meet that person in that level of energy. I want to know who that person is. And I want that person to feel seen. Because at the end of the day, Hanna, that's all we want. You know, a lot of people have the misconception of thinking, or the missed idea, or however you want to say that the more money I have, or the bigger my house is, or as many cars I have, I'm going to be seen more. When in reality, if you don't see yourself, you're going to be invisible for everybody else. So I see myself. I look at myself in the mirror and I go, oh, you have a pretty height today. And sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I go, oh, we're going for a filter. This is not good, you know? But that is on the camera. But when I'm meeting with somebody, the energy is different. I want to know that person with nothing. I just want to get to know that person. And I want that person to feel that in that moment, that person is the most important person in the room. Because I'm giving them my undivided attention.
I think you're right. Women really do want to be heard. There's something within us, you know, when we're in this empowerment journey and this educational space, you know, when we're going out into the community and we're meeting with all these different people, I think there's this stigma that's been created that you have to have a label in order to empower or network or engage with others. And the reality is, I like the come as you are too. Like, I'll meet you right where you are in life. Whether it's you're up here or what some people consider down here, because it is an energy. So if you're authentic in the approach and in the engaging aspect, you just never know. Like, look at us, how we met. We met at an event. We were perfect strangers. We sat in a coffee shop for 2 hours, then we sat outside for more. Then we did it again. And, you know, we talk throughout the week. We've built a relationship. And I don't feel like I have to be anybody else but myself.
Right. And I don't think I have to be anybody else but myself. And if you think about the people in history, I mean, the ruling people, let's talk about. Mother Teresa, Gandhi, the Dalai Lama. They're not showing up with expensive shoes or dresses or big houses. They are showing up as like they are.
Exactly.
With their heart in their hands and saying, here I am. How can I be at service? Show me the way. Show me how can I help you. There is nothing more rewarding than that.
It's very true. You also decided one day to pick up the pen and start writing. So I wanted to talk about that because I feel like this actually is a service. You are helping other people really understand and really embrace their journey. And you wrote a book called Brighter Days. And I kind of wanted you to tell me a little bit about where this came from.
Okay. So, as you know, because we have talked about it, I have been sick the majority of my kids' life. Half of it, probably, or 3/4. I never show up to my kids like a victim. Although I had cancer 3 times, I never show up to my kids like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I don't know what I'm going to do with my... No. It was like, I'm good. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. God has my agenda. Doctors don't know anything. I'm going to show them wrong. That was my mantra. That was it. Okay. I didn't care. And they knew that, you know. And I mean, when they were little, I was a single mom, so I wasn't able to bring my kids to treatment. Because nobody show up with 3 kids to treatment. So I used to make it a game. Who gets to come with me? Who's the lucky kid that gets to go with me to sit in a chair so I can get my treatment, you know? But for them, they were part of it. They were part of the healing process. They were not part of the illness and everything that comes with it that you're so familiar with, unfortunately. So my goal was always to leave something that they can take with them. That when I wasn't around, they can remember, you know? So I have a friend of mine, Scott, that says to me, you have so many Claudisms. You should write them down in a paper. So, you know, sometimes my daughter Isabella, for example, the other day was talking to her husband and turned around and he goes, and you. You know, because they emulate us, right? So when COVID came and we were not able to do much, I had one of my nephews stuck in the United States. He couldn't go back to Peru, and he was a publisher. So he gave me the idea of writing a book. At that time, I didn't even dream about having a podcast, which now my kids can have my story in so many different episodes from so many places that I've been a guest. But my goal with this book, and when he said to me, Tia, let's write your book. Let's do your book. I already had written it. The only thing I had to do was publish it. And I did it in a way that it was easy to read because it's 88 lessons. So it's kind of like 88 chapters. And some chapters are 1 page. And they're experiences that I have had and the lessons that I have learned. My kid's dad and I divorced when my oldest daughter was 5.5 years old. You know, Isabella was about 3, Sophia was 11 months. It wasn't easy, but even though we were not aligned with what we wanted out of life, we had something very clear, and it was the kids were going to be a priority. We were going to make them a priority. Maybe it was an 80-20, okay? But in his 20, they were always a priority. When he was with the girls felt that he was present. And they have amazing memories with him. So one of the chapters in my book, I talk about this because I think it's so important. And I write it again in one of my children's books, that parents understand that when they get divorced, they're not getting divorced from their kids, and they're not getting divorced from their family. They are getting divorced between them, but the family is still the same. And when we did the celebration of life for my ex-husband, my daughter Talia went on the stage and said, my parents got divorced when I was 5, but we never stopped being a family. And that's the message. That's the best gift you can give a child, that they don't have to choose. They don't have to learn to manipulate. They don't have to lie. They don't have to make the parents confront each other so they can feel seen. My kids never had to go through that. My kids never saw me and their dad fighting or screaming or calling each other names. They never hear me saying, oh, well, we don't have this because your dad didn't pay child support. No. And there were times that he was late. But they never had to go through that. And they didn't go to their dad's house to hear their dad say, oh, because your mom, who knows where she is right now because you're here, so maybe she went out. No. We were part of a team. And for me, it was important to write that, not only so my kids will always remember, but other families could read from that, other women can be inspired by that. And the same thing with every lesson that I learned as a mom, as a woman, even as a teenager. I talk about situations that I had to go through when I was a teenager and how I navigate those situations. And sometimes when you see another woman or another human going through something, immediately you feel that is possible for you too. So that was my mission. That was a work of love for my girls. And I never thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, everybody has my book. But a lot of people enjoy my book, and I had amazing reviews and amazing feedback because, like you said at the beginning, it's not written by a ghost writer. It's written by me with my broken accent and my wrong grammar sometimes. Here and there, you miss a D at the end or whatever, and it's me.
No.
And that's my message. And it's not that important as long as you understand what I'm trying to say.
So your next book we talked about was I Don't Shrink to Fit. Mm-hmm. And this one, you have a podcast, right? Yeah. So let's talk about that. So what prompted you to write I Don't Shrink to Fit?
I love to journal. I love to write. If I'm not writing I'm a paper person. I love to write in paper. But if not, I'm either recording in my phone or taking notes in my phone. So I wanted to create a journal that would empower women to pay attention to the positive of each day. And also serve them as a timeline or goals that they want. So it's a very simple one. You have 3 prompts in the morning, 3 prompts in the afternoon, but it keeps you aligned with that avatar that you aspire to be. And at the end of the book, I have some exercises for, to build your self-esteem, to work in your trauma responses. We all have trauma, and sometimes we don't recognize that we are one way or another because that's a trauma response. So identifying those rough edges is important. And the don't shrink to fit, actually, I have to blame my mom for that in a good way. I saw an article many years ago, and the article says, because you don't shrink to fit. And I was like, wow, that is true. When you're trying to fit in, you have to squeeze yourself to fit in. It's different than belonging, right? When you belong, you have to be yourself to belong. But when you fit in, you have to squeeze yourself. And I have squeezed myself to try to fit in for many years before I found out who I was and liked who I was. So I cut that piece in the magazine, the part of the article, and I put it in my vision board. And my mom came to visit one day and she goes, "That's clever." And I go, "Isn't it?" And for some reason, I just needed one validation that was good. And when I decided to do my podcast, I took that name because my podcast is a billboard for every woman that is shrinking to fit. So they can see other stories of other women that has come out of the box and are shining with their own light. You know, they don't have to shrink anymore.
I think when you have to shrink to fit in a room, you're not meant to be in that room.
100.
You know, I don't think there's a box for any one of us that we have to fit in or a stereotype. I think we create them on our own. You continued your writing journey and you wanted to include men, which we talked about that, you know, how there's so much women's empowerment, but there really is a need for us as women and men to really change the narrative and collaborate together and stop seeing it as, you know, hey, we're on the girls' team, you guys are the boys, but really, like, men have wants, needs, desires to be, they want to be heard too. They need love too. And we talked about that. And you wrote the Abundance Journal for Men.
Yes.
And I remember when we were talking about this at the coffee shop, and I was thinking, man, I wish my husband would journal, because journaling is therapeutic. You know, like instead of him telling it, not that I don't want to hear it, but I feel like it's whenever you are able to journal and write, I find it so therapeutic. And I tell him all the time, because he always says, babe, why do you have so many journals? And I'm like, do you want to hear it? Or would you rather the book receive the, all that's up here, you know? And he's like, that's good. Keep journaling. So when you created this for the guys, I was like, wow, what a great thing to do for the gentleman.
You know, my husband was using the one with the flowers that don't shrink to fit, because my husband is, again, you know, when we go to human design, he's a projector. So he's going to tell me what everything is going to go wrong. So then I know, and I'm not surprised, right? So it's like, are you going to go to the mall? There's going to be a lot of people. You won't find a parking space. Thank you. Awesome. Now I know, right? So I said to him, I wanted to do an experiment with him. And I said, how about you start journaling? And let's see how your perception changes, because you have to focus on the positive, right? So he's like, well, I don't have a journal, and I have these journals that are empty pages, and I don't know what to write. And I said, well, start with mine. He goes, but it has flowers. And I'm like, just start with mine. So when he went to his second one, because he finished one, and it was time to get another one, I surprised him with publishing one for men. So I'm like, oh, now you can take it with you, because you're not taking this flowery, girly journal. But what you said is very true. You know, we separate ourselves on men and women when we, in reality, both men and women have the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And I have the masculine energy when I'm working, you know. I work like a man, and I'm very proud of it. But my feminine energy for the longest time was just for my kids. To the world, it was a masculine energy. For my girls, it was the feminine energy. And then I learned, you know, the vulnerability and courage are not opposites. So that was a process. But for my husband, when I created that book that I created for him, really, because he was nagging me about the flowers, it was also an opportunity to be in his feminine energy and be vulnerable and talk from the heart and write what he really, really wants, and nobody's watching, so it's okay. It's okay to say, oh, you know what? I want to just walk in the beach. I don't want to say that out loud to my friends, like, hey, dude, what's up? I just want to walk in the beach. They won't do that, right? So there's an opportunity for them to just be in that, you know, energy and vibration that, and also when you are in that vibration, you start manifesting. So why not, you know, start writing down things that makes you happy, that brings you joy, and being your feminine energy. It's okay, you know.
I always say, you know, and I'm fueled by my kids. I have 5 beautiful kids, and they just are my world. And I always say, you know, fight like a girl, work like a man.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about, you know, a journal for a man wanting to be completely and totally vulnerable, it just was something that I was like, wow, I would love to see more of that happen, because they're kind of meant and labeled as, you know, they have to be the macho guy. They can't let their guard down.
Especially nowadays.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
It's like, you don't cry. Why?
Or suck it up. Just suck it up.
Right.
Keep going, you know, and it's okay.
Or don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that has changed in the world that I don't particularly like. But one thing that I do like is that now men are more open to that. They are not enough men open to go on camera and talk about their emotions and their vulnerability. But there are some that are, and they're paving, you know, that path for other men to go and say, you know what, I feel like that too. And it's okay.
So then you kind of like pivoted and you started writing children's books. And, you know, we talked about this, all families are not the same. And you shared with me where the concept of each of these books came from. So I was kind of hoping you could tell the viewers and listeners, you know, secrets
Don't include
mom. And that one I remember specifically as talking about, and kind of just give the audience a little bit of background on these books.
The secrets don't include mom. It's a thing I told my kids when they were little, like, they can tell me anything because secrets don't include mom. So if a friend will say something, they will feel safe. And until now, my girls just share anything with me. Number one, they know it stays with me. Whatever my kids tell me, I'm not going to go to my friend and talk about. I'm bold. They know that stays, and we are very tight. So we talk about it, the four of us. But when they were little, it was important to me that they knew that they can come to me and share whatever it was, because I couldn't be there all the time. I was a single mom. I had to work a lot. So my time with them was quality time more than quantity time. But what happened when I'm not around? You know, I mean, I had some horrible experience when I was a kid, and I didn't want them to ever have those experiences. So I always wanted to prevent. I was thinking ahead, you know, if somebody says something to them, if somebody wants to give them a candy that is not a candy, if somebody try to touch them in a way that is not okay, I want them not to have fear, but be motivated to come and share that with me, even if they tell them that's a secret. So that was the, you know, secrets that include mom. This is something that my daughter Isabella doesn't know, but she inspired me to the one that Where Did Grandma Go? Her title Bugs. When she was in school, one of her friends killed herself. And I don't know if you remember that, Isa, but Isa is here. So she killed herself. And one day I saw my daughter outside looking at the sky. And I go, Isa, what are you doing? And she said, come on, God. And I'm like, I didn't know what to say. Because you have this thing that they teach you, you know, especially in religion, that you go to heaven, where's heaven up there? So I didn't know how to handle it, honestly. And there have been a million times that I didn't know how to handle things. You know, you make mistakes and then you learn. So I said, and I remember vividly, you know, when that happened, because the girl, when it went to the funeral, and they had put like a crown of flowers, so it wouldn't show. It was very sad. So that stayed in the back of my head. And when I started writing these children's books, I wanted to write about grief. And that is the memory that came with me. And it was just about the time their dad had passed away. So it was kind of like a combination of the two of them, of those two situations, to explain to a child that, where did grandma go? Grandma went to your heart. That's where grandma went. Into your head, into your memories, into your dreams, into the experiences, into the laughs that you have with her. That's where grandma went. So in a way, explain to children, no matter what is your religion, no matter what is your belief, that when somebody that you love goes away, dies, never come back home, because in the story, the grandma goes to the hospital, but she never come back home. You know that person that you love is going to be here always. It's going to stay in your heart. It's going to stay in your memories. And it's going to become a little angel that is going to walk with you. And, I do believe in that. I mean, that's my own belief, but I do believe in that. And oftentimes, my girls and I are talking about their dad, and a song will come out, and it's a song that he used to sing or he liked, and we're like, yep, there he is. Okay. But that is a validation for me to continue to believe that those souls are still around and they didn't leave us behind, and that's what I wrote that one. And the divorce was just because that was my experience. I had to go through a divorce parents when I was a kid, and no one sat with me and explained to me anything. No one told me what happened. It was just, we're moving. And kids are human. Kids need explanations. Oftentimes when my kids were little, I would have to make a decision, and I would go to my kids and say, you know what? I'm thinking about doing this, and I want to know what you guys think. I never said to them, it's for voting. Okay, let's vote. No, I'm the adult. I'm going to make the decision, but I want to hear you. I want to know what you think, what you feel, because the decision that I'm going to make is going to affect you. And you're important enough to count. So I want to know. And I think that sometimes we forget, we make decisions and then we leave the kids hanging, and the kids don't understand. And that's where the trauma goes. So my goal with those books is create finally one day a generation, with all the books, without trauma. Without trauma, that you can have those conversations with your kids and you can explain to them, and the kids can know that if I don't behave, I'm not going to get the negative attention. I want the good attention. So I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to talk to my parents, and I'm going to share my secrets. And I know I'm being seen and I matter. And I think that's very important for a kid to feel.
So you are working on another project. You're still writing.
Yeah.
You're still speaking. You're still doing podcasts. What do you think is something that you're really wanting to complete?
Well, my books for sure, I'm working on my bio. That's something I'm working. I'm being part of one of your amazing books too, for Latins Breaking the Glass Ceiling. I do want to have another series of Valentina, of my children's books, because they're still like drugs, sexual abuse, and self-esteem that are very important to me, and that's where the self-worth comes. So I want to work on those books. I still do my retreats that I love, because it's an opportunity for women to connect and have that sisterhood, and that is so important. I always say at the end of my podcast, we can only fly, we embrace each other, and I do believe that. And that's probably one of the reasons why I like to be at service, because I know I have something to bring to the table, but I also know that you have something to bring to the table. So if we collaborate, we can create the magic. So why not? Right?
Right.
So those are things that are important to me. And yes, my podcast, give the opportunity to women to have a voice and to say what they have to say. And hopefully somebody in the other side is listening, and they're going to get a shift just by listening to somebody else's story.
So living in the Las Vegas community, what is something that we can do to where we can really invest and show the true strength of education, inspiration, and empowerment for women?
I think we have to make those things available, because I truly believe there is a lot of hunger for that. And there is not really any place here. We talk about this, the project that I have to empower and help women and give them the tools. I mean, you take, for example, somebody that has been trafficked, she has to start a life from zero. And when I say from zero, it's from zero. I don't even have clothes, right? I mean, I know a couple of people that were trafficked, and they had to change their life completely. Their name, remove the branding tattoo that they put on them. I mean, it's a whole different story. But when it comes to their mind, they don't have the resources to shift into that empowering mode or worthy mode, or I am capable to do this mode. And I think we need more places. I do a lot of freebies. I do a lot of things online for free. To motivate, to promote me and motivate people to be more curious. And also because those are tools that I can give to somebody that is irate and cannot afford me or another coach to have a one-on-one. So I think that's a beautiful way for people that are in your position and my position to take forward and help. There is so much talent out there. They just don't know they are talented. So we need to really spend a little time with them and dig in and say, oh, wow, look, you're able to do that. Why don't you? Let me help you. Let me guide you.
What we do, really, truth be told, anyone can do.
Yes, we are no more special than other people. Perhaps I think the difference with somebody that has the same talents as you and I have is grabbing the opportunity. We saw the opportunity and we jumped. We let fear in the back seat with the ego. We took control of the car and we said, I love it. You guys way back there. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to drive us to success. And it's hard because, ego is just there to protect us.
Right.
Everybody perceives ego as a bad thing, but it's really there to protect us, because the ego is like the devil's advocate. It's telling you everything that's going to go wrong. And we as humans are not wired to be happy for a long period of time. So when we are okay and things are going well, we tend to sabotage ourselves, right? Because our ego comes and goes, hey, Mayday, you've been happy for 3 days. Let's screw this up so that we are in control because we mess it up and not wait for somebody else to come and mess it up. So we do that multiple times. And if you don't listen to the ego and you send it to the back seat and you don't listen to the fear, which for me, fear is face everything and rise. That's it. So, I have it in a big sign. So I remember that. But if we do that, if we have the courage to say, no, wait a minute, that's for me. I want that. That's for me. And I'm going to go after that because I know I'm worthy of it. I know I deserve it. And I know that I'm capable to do it. So, by the way, imposter syndrome, go sit in the back seat with the two of them. Because you don't have a place in my life.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome, limiting belief system, ego, fear. They can all, have a summer session together. But I think one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you to come on today was the authenticity that you bring. And I think that women especially really need to know that there's women like you that exist, that are cheering them on, even if it's from far away. But to know that women like you are in our community, it's such a freeing feeling, when someone who has been trafficked or who has experienced trauma of some sort, they do feel marked. I've written about this, I've studied it, and there's something about them that doesn't allow them to be free. So when you meet someone who says,
let me help you,
and it comes from that genuine space, I think it's just something that needs to be shared. And all the while, through the good and the bad of your journey, with you, with your girls, with the loss, with the diagnosis, you've stayed rooted. And now here you are. So before we close up, is there anything that you want to say to our listeners and viewers? If there's one thing that you could tell your girls right here, right now, what would it be?
Well, I wake up my kids every day with a quote, so to set the tone for the day. But I think I will tell them that the most important person in their lives is themselves. You can be your best friend and you can be your worst enemy. Love yourselves with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Accept yourself. You have to for improvement. By all means, grow, learn, educate yourself. But don't talk to yourself like you would talk to somebody that you hate. We are kind to our friends. We're kind to a neighbor. We're kind to somebody in the grocery store. Why we're not kind to ourselves? Be kind to yourself. You are the most important person in your life.
Well, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your journey. And, really, we barely just scratched the surface. So we'll definitely have you back on. And, we wish you the best of luck in all the endeavors that you do. And thank you for taking the time. And these books that you have written, where can everyone find them?
They can go to my website, ClaudiaNoriegaBernstein.com, or they can go to Amazon. I have it in English and in Spanish.
So we'll make sure that these are included in the show notes so that you can connect. And are you currently working on a passion project as of this very moment?
I am working on my retreat. My big retreat is toward the end of the year. There is a waiting list in my website, and I am working on my bio. I am, little by little. And I'm also working on some online trainings about abundance and manifestation and all that stuff that I'm going to have hopefully before the end of the year on my website. Because I also think that it's important that people cannot afford the one-on-one, have those resources available for them.
Well, thank you for sharing with me today and being here with me today.
Thank you. And kiss me.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining another episode of She Rises Studios podcast. Please follow us online at She Rises Studios. You can also visit our website at www.sherisesstudios.com.